Hi, this is Muho, and today I have a great news that I want to share with you. My first English book is out. You can read it as an ebook and you will find the link in the video description. After I became the Abbot of Antaiji almost 25 years ago, German publishers asked me to write books about my story, about my take on life, and I wrote a number of books in German like this one, A Raindrop Returns to the Ocean, which is about life and death, or The Ocean Doesn't Refuse Any River. This one is about love and compassion. Or The Moon Shines Even in a Small Puddle. This is about my life story, more or less. This is the recent one, Whatever You Think is Just a Thought, that came out this year. Or this is for the hardcore Zen fans, Food for Horses and Donkeys. It's my reading of Dogen. And I wrote even more in Japanese, like these two here. I like especially the covers. They came out in Japanese this year. So for a long time people asked me, why don't you write anything in English? And well, the short answer is my English is just not good enough. As you might know, after I became the Abbot of Antaiji, I wrote quite a good amount of text, of articles on the website. The title of these texts was Adult Practice. It's not exactly something for beginners, it's not an introduction to Buddhism, it's more something for people who practiced already for a couple of years. And those you can still find on the Antaiji homepage. But now, finally, my very first German book. In German it's called Zazen oder der Weg zum Glück. Zazen, or A Path to Happiness. And that's also the English title. Has been translated by Ivona, a friend of mine who visited Antaiji over a decade ago and practiced with us for a while, and it took her almost the whole decade to finally polish and publish this English translation, and I'm really happy about that. I want to share maybe the contents table with you and explain a little bit what you will find in this book. The book contains altogether 17 chapters. Each second one is about my life and the other ones are about happiness. What is happiness? How can we lead a life that's maybe more happy, just a little bit more happy, or maybe a little less suffering? The first chapter is called My Path to Antaiji, how I got into Zen, how I got to Japan. I said for the first time with 16, at the age of 16, and as a high school student, I already knew I want to go to Japan. And then the more common question, what is happiness? How come that maybe some of us at least feel not super happy most of the time? There's always this feeling of something is missing here. Then my first years as a Zen novice. And I often tell the story of my teacher first asking me when I was 22. I just arrived at Antaiji. Why have you come here? What are you looking for at Antaiji? I want to learn something about Buddhism. And my teacher saying, Antaiji is not a school. You create Antaiji. And I was put in charge of the goats and I had to learn how to cook, but most of the time the monks were not so happy with what I cooked. I got a lot of criticism. The first day the udon were too hard, al dente style. The Japanese monks didn't like that. The next day I decided I'll cook them really soft. And at one point after 30 minutes they had dissolved. And getting only criticized, yelled at every day in the kitchen. At one point I said I didn't come to Antaiji to learn how to cook. And my teacher said, "It's not about you. You don't count at all." And that was my first koan. How come? How come? He tells me, you create Antaiji. And another thing he told me when I asked him, there are so many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in Buddhism. What is the one Buddha that is sitting there in the main hall of Antaiji? What's the main Buddha in Antaiji? And my teacher at the time said, who cares? Who cares about the Buddha statue in the main hall? If you don't become a Buddha here, there's no Buddha to find at Antaiji. And then out of the blue, he's saying, it's not about you. You don't count at all. How's that possible? So that's what you find in chapter 3. Chapter 4, why am I unhappy? Chapter 5, the path out of the dead end. In this chapter, I tell about my experiences in a quite strict Rinzai monastery in Kyoto, to which I went after 2 years in Antaiji. I was desperate. And recently I uploaded a video on my German channel. You will find a link in the end rolls and maybe also in the video description. It's in German, but you can see it with either subtitles or also dubbed if you like that. It's not my voice, but some nice American guy, AI of course, saying what I say in English. But if you don't want it in video form, but you want to read it as I told it in the book, that would be the topic in chapter 3, the treatment I got in the Rinzai monastery, and it helped me to let go of certain things. Chapter 6 is called Beyond Happiness and Unhappiness. And throughout the book you find a lot of quotes by Kodo Sawaki. When I wrote this book, I was translating actually 2 or 3 books of Kodo Sawaki into German language. One of them I later also translated together with Jesse Reiho Harsh into English to you, this one. And you will find lots of quotes also in this book. One of them I put right in the beginning. It's basically, you're looking for happiness and peace. First you have to worry. First you have to really learn how to worry. Other quotes go more into the direction of real happiness means to find peace in unhappiness. It means to find peace in this feeling of it's not enough. It's not enough. Anyway, chapter 7, back to Antaiji. After I stayed 1 year in Rinzai monastery, I went for another year to Hoshinji, a Soto monastery. And then I came back to Antaiji as a senior monk, you could say. But I was still not the abbot. And after another 4 years, so I ordained when I was 25, and then at age 33 I had Dharma transmission from my teacher. After 8 years I left the monastery and I thought eventually I will go back to Germany. But I decided before I go back to Germany I'll start a small Zen group somewhere in a big city in Japan. So I decided for Osaka, and at the time rents were high in the city, but a lot of people were living outside in tents in the park, homeless people. And I thought, well, that's a possibility. I can do that. I have no money, but why don't I stay in a tent in the park? So I lived for 6 months in the park. And also there's a German video that I will put a link to in the end rolls where I talk about that time. You will find a number of pictures from the time. Also, I met my future wife there. She came to the Zen group. But after 6 months, my teacher died. I was called back to the monastery and I became the next abbot at Antaiji. Chapter number 10 has the title, Is Love Really All You Need? That's what the Beatles claimed. But is it really true? And what do we mean when we talk about love in the first place? Is it really unconditional love, or do we mean I want you to love me when we say I love you, or I want to have you, I want to possess you? Number 11, my childhood, and chapter number 12, happy families. And I talk about the difference about, well, family life, how I experienced it in the West, in Germany, and how I experience it in Japan. Chapter 13 has the title, My Life Today as Abbot and Father, and also the contradictions and difficulties of having a family while being responsible for a monastery. Chapter 14, how should we work? In German, the title was Wie arbeiten, how to work. I have the feeling that before we ask the we question, how do we work, we should ask ourselves, how do I work? It's a question that you should first ask in the first person singular before you ask it in the plural we form. Whatever, the last two chapters are called Life at Antaiji. And if you're interested in Life at Antaiji, you find videos on this channel, but also you'll find the Antaiji YouTube channel on YouTube. So if you want to have an insight, a glimpse of how life at Antaiji really looks like today, go to their video channel, go to their website. I will also put a small link in the end rolls. And then chapter 16, finally, practicing Zazen, a small introduction to how Zazen, just sitting, is done. And the last final chapter, Zazen, a path to happiness, question mark. And this brings me to another topic. Every year during the autumn, I write these small cacographies, I call them. Calligraphy means beautiful writing. Cacography means ugly writing. And my handwriting is kind of ugly. Although, if you're not Japanese, maybe you don't notice how ugly it is. Anyway, I write these every year and I send them to my supporters. People who support me through PayPal should get these soon in the mail if you haven't got it yet. And this year I wrote the character for playing. In Japanese it would be asobi or you. I heard that in China it means also to travel freely, or in modern Chinese you write it a little bit different, and then it means also to swim like a fish in the water, to fly like a bird in the sky, to live your life freely. So that also connects to the book. How do I work? Is work a drag for me, or do I live and work as a form of play? Also the two books that I wrote in Japanese this year about exactly this topic. How can I change the game of life? Until now I just live to gain points, to win against the others. So that it becomes like playing frisbee with your kids. There are no winners and no losers. Okay, so much from my side. Maybe you have a look at the links that you find in the video description or in the end rolls. And if you decide to buy the book, it's about $7, I think. I hope you like it. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye.